Madam Speaker.
I call the Leader of the Opposition.
Queensland health in crisis. Housing affordability in crisis. Youth crime in crisis. The only Queenslander who has just heard about the crises impacting this state for the first time is the Premier. Queenslanders are living through it. And while ministers were climbing over each other, asking what job do I get next, Queenslanders were asking when will things get better for us? And no rebrand, reshuffle, reheat, recycle, whatever you want to call it, is going to change it. It's the same people around the cabinet table who have led to the mess that we are in today. And people are asking,
Member for Miller, order.
The housing crisis has not just developed in the last shower. It's been 8 years of underinvestment, of falling lot approvals by 33%, a social housing waiting list from 20,000 to 50,000, and for 2 years running, Queensland has spent less per head of population than any other state in the country. My vision is a place where working Queenslanders can afford to keep a roof over their head. My vision is for a place where young Queenslanders can aspire to own a new home and where the most vulnerable can keep a roof over their head. And our solutions are infrastructure partnerships and
Member for Miller, order.
Housing and social housing targets. The health crisis is not new. Labor was losing control of health long before COVID, Madam Speaker. Ramping had already doubled from 15% to 30%, and today it is at 41%. The number of patients getting elective surgery on time has reduced from 98% to 78%. The elective surgery waiting list has gone from 30,000 to nearly 60,000, and the number of patients waiting longer than 24 hours is up 225%. And our solutions include better resourcing, better triaging, sharing data in real time and putting doctors and nurses back in charge. The crime crisis is not something that has happened in the last week. Unlawful use of a motor vehicle up 105%. Unlawful entry up 62%. And as I listen to Queenslanders who have lost loved ones, they ask where has the Premier been when they needed her most. The government's public sector workforce profile shows full-time equivalent police have fallen in this state at a time when weaker laws have made their job even more tough. And our solutions are consequences for actions, unshackle the judiciary and remove detention as a last resort, and gold standard early intervention. Madam Speaker, health, housing, crime, these problems might be new to the Premier, but they are not new to Queenslanders. They are living through it every day. They are living through it when they go to a hospital and they see our frontline staff battered and bruised and undervalued and scrambling to keep a health service on the road. They see it when they pick up the phone after someone has been through their house, when their car is missing and they have fewer police and weaker laws to deal with it. And they see it when their child wants to buy their first property, when working people are forced out of their own home because they can't afford it, and they see it when the most vulnerable in our community can't keep a roof over their head. And the Premier's solution might be to make the same people do a different job around the same table, but it's the same government that's presided over 8 years of mess in this state. Madam Speaker, in all the chaos and crisis, the government has forgot to name a Minister for Youth. At a time when young people have never been under more pressure, the government forgot about young people. Young people want to aspire to buy a
Order,
home.
members.
Young people aspire to get a job where they live. Young people aspire for action on climate, and this government has forgotten a Minister for Youth. What a shame. Swallow your pride. Admit you got it wrong. Admit you overlooked it. install a Minister for Youth in Queensland today and give young people a voice.
Yeah. Deputy Speaker.
Member for Miller, order. I call the member for Kawana.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Well, as they say in the classics, roll on up, the best circus in town has arrived. Is it, I hear you ask, Deputy Speaker, the Moscow Circus? No. The Lennon Brothers Circus? No. The Barnum and Bailey Circus? No. Or Cirque du Soleil? No, no, no. It's the Circus de Chaos. The Circus de Chaos has arrived in town. It's been around for a while, Deputy Speaker, but comes with a so-called new fresh face, a new marquee. No new faces, but some of the biggest clowns just in changed costumes, Deputy Speaker. Do not be fooled by the changed new costumes. Do not be fooled by the new performances. It's the same old circus with the same old clowns. And as Bon Jovi sang, the more things change, the more they stay the same. The more things change, the more they stay the same. And as Tina Turner said, turn back time. That's what the Palaszczuk government would have us believe today, would have Queenslanders believe that they're turning back time, because as we know, the more things change, the more they stay the same. I hear when the ringmaster, the Premier herself, changed the roles, there was lots of unhappy performers in the ministry, and we hear the underperforming ministers found out about their side shoe shuffle when it broke on Channel 9. Absolutely. Imagine finding out that you've been side shoe shuffled out of a job in the media. Saw it on Channel 9 when it broke that night, and then what followed, what ensued, was ministers leaking against each other, leaking against the Premier, the gossip, the Premier. There was just 2 days of chaos. Chaos reigned supreme under the Palaszczuk government. The latest circus act of reshuffling has the same jokers in the same deck. These are the same clowns, the same circus, and the Crisis Circus performing the same circus act. Take, for instance, Minister Bailey, the juggler who can't juggle projects to deliver them on time and on budget. And now he's responsible, believe it or not, for digital services. How's those emails going, mate? Delete, delete, delete. And then, of course, you've got the Mime Act. Every good circus needs a Mime Act, and that's Minister Crawford, the Mime Act. He's around, but he never says a lot. In fact, the only thing we give him credit for was the Parta Treaty in Cairns 2 weeks ago, and he got sacked because he did such a great job. They thanked him. They said, well, you know, the Cairns, this is amazing effort, Minister, this is what you've done. And then they rolled it. And then the Premier. Well, I take the interjection. He even presented a spear to the Parliament, and then the Premier gave him credit for getting the Parta Treaty through the Parliament. And then she turned the back and said to this morning in Parliament, the reason for the reshuffle was after the Parta Treaty had time to consider. Oh, no, it wasn't because of Health Minister Yvette D'Arth and her failings. It wasn't the failings of the former Youth Justice Minister. It wasn't the failings of the Treasurer to deal with the cost of living crisis. It was the fact, and the former Housing Minister Christ. No, no, no. It was the very successful Parta Treaty which passed Parliament. That's why Minister Crawford got the sack from that portfolio. And, of course, the new Health Minister, Fentiman, the tightrope walker, has been given health. She dare not put a wrong step or it's all over for her in the left. And, of course, you've got the knife-throwing act, the Deputy Premier, straight into the back of the new Health Minister. There's no one more pleased than Yvette D'Arth to get out of that portfolio, and it was the Deputy Premier to have Minister Fentiman in the health portfolio to stop what she's doing in terms of her leadership ambitions. And then, of course, you've got Minister Farmer, who talked about this morning repeat serial offenders. I was sitting there wondering, is she talking about juvenile criminals or the Palaszczuk ministers who are repeat serial incompetent offenders in this government? Nothing's changed. I feel for the backbench. I even offered to write references for a couple of them, only a couple of which they rejected. I was hopeful they'd take up the cudgels, Mr Deputy Speaker, but no one in the Labor backbench is worthy of promotion. The Premier said that herself. The Premier said, don't take my words for it, member for Hervey Bay, take your leader's words for it, because she said it herself. The Minister Furner, the Agriculture Minister, he's now sitting to Minister Farmer, the closest he'll ever get to a farmer in life, Mr Deputy Speaker, sitting next to Minister Farmer. This government is a joke. This government is in chaos.
Member, your time's expired. Member, your time's expired. Order. Order. I call the Treasurer.
Deputy Speaker.